So a Democratic strategist went on C-SPAN and sounded like a Republican. Now that's pretty normal. I've seen that for decades in my life.
Sure is.
But something weird happened. The callers started calling him out because the walls have been breached and the propaganda doesn't work anymore. So when he started criticizing Abdul El-Sayed, caller after caller started saying, wait, are you even a Democrat or do you represent someone else? Great question. For that story, we go to Anna.
Well, I think a good way of having the audience understand how upset the callers were is to show you examples of what the callers had to say to him. So let's start off with the first video.
Stanley, Clinton Township, Michigan, Democrat, please go ahead.
I just want to say, in regards to Michael, what kind of a Democratic strategist are you?
Tyrone is in New York City, Democrat. Hi, Tyrone, you're on the air.
Unfortunately, it seems like I'm listening to two Republican strategists.
Michael, Brooklyn, Democrat. Good morning.
Yeah, I'm just amazed. I guess I'm a third person is calling to say, Michael De La Rosa, what you're doing a tag team with your Republican buddy. You might as well be a Republican. Do you want to win the Senate back in 2026? The only way you're going to do it, you're going to need Michigan, and you're dissing this guy El-Sayed. What's wrong with you? Are you out of your mind?
Well, I mean, I think he's a creature of the very real issue we have in this country with the uniparty. I mean, I think it was bad enough if we genuinely were under the assumption that we were ruled by a two-party system. But that's not even the case anymore. We are ruled by a uniparty on issues that actually have a very real material impact on our day-to-day lives. Issues of foreign policy, issues of money in politics and corruption, issues involving our economic system and whether or not certain things need to be reformed. So all this money doesn't get hoarded to the very, very top, not even at the 1%, but at the 0.1%, okay? And so Cenk, I am not surprised by any of this. I am not surprised that a so-called Democratic strategist is opting for the Republican to win in the Senate race in Michigan.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I've only seen Democrats fight aggressively when it comes to one thing, when it comes to defeating people to the left of them.
Yep. So he's a former press secretary for Jill Biden.
Of course he is.
And I actually interviewed him on the Young Turks, so you could see that interview on our YouTube channel. And it's an interesting one. And there he was making good points about how a lot of Democrats already knew about Joe Biden's situation. And so we had a very pleasant conversation. But that's silly me. Like, I should remember, of course, everyone in DC works for Israel. So he doesn't care if the Democrats win or lose. He only cares if Israel wins or loses, and he's gonna prove it. So let's show you the videos first, and then I'll come back. And he's now challenged me publicly, and we'll talk about that as well.
So let's start with the next video. So you just got a little taste of what some of the callers had to say. Let's actually hear them out in context.
Michael De La Rosa, what you're doing a tag team with your Republican buddy. You might as well be a Republican. Do you want to win the Senate back in 2026? The only way you're going to do it, you're going to need Michigan, and you're dissing this guy El-Sayed. What's wrong with you? Are you out of your mind? Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just, it's just beyond me that you're coming on as a Democratic strategist. How dare you? I mean, I'm from Brooklyn. I think Adam Goodman's kid could do a better job supporting the Democrats.
Let's go to another caller, one that was a little more aggressive. Take a look.
Michael, you're fired, okay? You should not be a Democratic strategist. I'm so upset with everything you said.
Now, Cindy, besides his comments about the Michigan Senate, which we've talked about now a couple of times, what else did he say that upset you? And you're calling on the independent line, so
I understand.
Are you a Democrat? You're
I'm
leaning
Democrat this year.
All right, so how has he hurt your party?
Well, I don't have time to go into everything he said because I want y'all to talk about how corrupt the Trump administration is and how the Republicans are not doing one single thing about it. That's why I'm leaning Democrats. That's why I would vote for El-Sayed in Michigan if I was in Michigan.
Let me just say that there are a number of really big issues that I think you have buy-in across the political spectrum among voters. I'm not talking about people in positions of power or strategists or the rest of the political scum that we have to deal with and talk about on a daily basis. I'm just talking about the American people. They want money out of politics. They want the corruption out. But here's the thing, when you're a Democratic strategist, your bread and butter is money in politics.
Yep.
Kamala Harris raising $1.5 billion. Where'd that money go? To the Democratic strategist, right? So you think someone like him is going to carry water for the American people when they want money out of politics? Of course not. Of course not.
So we're gonna get to why the callers were so mad and show you a couple of clips that also enraged me. But I like that look that the Republican gave him when they were outed. A look of like, oh, are you okay? They caught us.
Yeah.
Like now they know we're working together for Israel, and having the Republican, Democrat doesn't matter. There was a Republican who was against Israel, then they would both sound like Democratic strategists, because he would then attack the, like if they were talking about Tom Massey, I'd be shocked if the Republican consultant didn't attack Tom Massey.
Right, that's a good point, yeah.
Okay,
really
because it's really the uniparty serving one country and it isn't ours, right? So second of all, look, guys, we just showed you the good news. In the old days, none of that would have happened. He would have spouted off about, oh yeah, make sure you vote against the Democrats. I'm a Democratic strategist. We're weak and we really want corporate PACs and foreign governments to win. And that would have been it. There would have been no pushback, right? Certainly the host is not going to push back. But now the Democratic voters have been awakened. And it's a beautiful thing to see.
Sure is.
So now when he's like, now remember, I'm the Democratic strategist, but vote for the Republican in Michigan, so the Democrats don't have the Senate, so we can say there was nothing we could do, there was nothing we could do, and then the donors can get everything they want, right? And the caller after caller was like, you're fired, how dare you? I caught you, like, yes, there you go, wake up everybody, wake up. These Democratic politicians and strategists aren't Democrats at all. They're all betraying you for the donor class who they literally work for. He's a consultant and a strategist. He gets paid by the donor class.
Yes, and remember the last caller that you heard from, the woman, is an independent voter, which means that she has casted ballots for Republicans. This time around, she's leaning Democrat and actually wants El-Sayed to win because she's disgusted by the corruption that's been brazenly displayed by the Trump administration with absolutely no challenge from any Republican lawmakers whatsoever.
And he's trying to talk her out of it.
It's amazing, it's amazing. So why? Here he is explaining why he's against Abdul El-Sayed winning a Senate seat in Michigan.
I'm supporting every Democrat. I can't wait for Democrats to win. I know Democrats are going to win. I just want to do it without bad Democrats. For example, a Democrat, the guy running from Michigan, Mr. El-Sayed, has said when he gets to the Senate, he is going to challenge, he is going to primary, he's going to set his sights on other Democrats in the Senate. So that means he's coming for Catherine Cortez Masto. He's coming for Maggie Hassan. He's coming for John Fetterman. He's coming for Michael Bennett in Colorado. He's coming for mainstream Democrats in the Senate. He has said he's going to do it. This guy who wants to be their new colleague is going to go up and run against them. No thanks. We don't need him.
He's also going after Chuck Schumer. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, he's not going to give Chuck Schumer his vote.
No.
I don't see what the problem is. Do not threaten me with a good time. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I think he just accidentally helped Abdul El-Sayed because that sounded awesome.
It did sound awesome. He's like, oh no, well, Abdul El-Sayed wants to challenge the dead weight in the Democratic Party. We can't have that. He's a bad Democrat.
Okay. By the way, I mean, there was a hilarious, ironic statement there, totally missed by everybody. He's like, now he's a bad Democrat. That's why I don't support him. And him not supporting other Democrats is terrible. Wait, you just said you don't support other Democrats.
But the bad Democrats.
Okay,
the bad
and then
ones.
you listed a whole bunch of Democrats that no one is allowed to oppose because they're the good Democrats according to you.
I mean, Cortez Masto is really like doing some heavy lifting and improving the lives of the American people, right?
Yeah.
Please.
And so of course, the reason he says that is because those are potential clients. Those are people who are corrupt Democrats who love the donor money, and who love consultants and strategists who tell them pretty little lies about, oh yeah, the American people want the same thing as the donors. Totally, totally. So he just listed for you all the bad guy Democrats in reality who never deliver for you, and that's an empirical fact. Have they gotten you higher minimum wage? No. Paid family leave? No. Public option? No.
Anything.
Nothing. Those are the bad Democrats. And he's like, can you believe this Abdul El-Sayed is actually gonna fight for Democratic voters? And normally in Washington, they'd be like, yeah, boo, good way to go, Michael LaRosa. But now you're on C-SPAN and the walls are breached, and the actual voters are like, yeah, not buying it. I think you're full of crap. And the voters are right, of course.
Here's another attempt of him explaining why he's definitely vote blue no matter who, but there is a caveat. What's that caveat? You're about to hear it.
Vote blue no matter who. The problem with that is who still matters. At least it matters to me. And I just come from a time when I watched people jumping out of windows on 9/11. It's personal to me, and 25 years later, somebody who can't stand up to his friends online, on streamers. I don't even know who these people are, but if you're too cowardly and too weak to stand up to somebody who justifies terrorism, who justifies 9/11, the test of leadership is not standing up to the other side. That's easy to do. Standing up to your friends, and he's too much of a coward to do it.
Oh, wow. Abdul El-Sayed justified 9/11? Where's your evidence of that? I mean, did Abdul El-Sayed draw attention to how disastrous US foreign policy is in the Middle East and how that leads to hostility directed toward the American people? And is that inaccurate? Because it's not inaccurate, it's 100% true. And Cenk, I have one area of disagreement with you. I do think he's a little bitch for Israel, I do. But I don't think that's the main reason why he's against El-Sayed. I think the main reason why is because El-Sayed and candidates like him represent what the majority of Americans want in getting money out of politics. And again, that jeopardizes LaRosa's bread and butter.
Yeah.
He's looking out for himself. You think he cares about the American people or Democratic voters? Of course not.
So that's actually going to get into our dispute online about it, which I didn't even realize until we started the show, which is hilarious. Because, anyways, but first let me address that real quick. He says, well, he can't even stand up to his friends who advocated for 9/11. Nobody advocated for 9/11. I don't know what the hell he's talking about, but I know he's referring to Hassan, right? And so, except Abdul did stand up and say, I reject those comments.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh, by the way, who else rejected those comments? Hassan did 2 days later, right here. He was sitting right there. He said it, it's been on the record for years that he's like, yeah, that was a stupid way of saying it. What I really meant is about the foreign policy that led to it, which by the way, the great majority of Americans agree with, right? But Michael De La Rosa paints it as Abdul did not reject that when he did, and so did Hassan. So he's lying about it. And why is he lying about it? My sense of it is, he's like, Muslim candidate, I bring up 9/11, implied terrorism connections.
Very Clintonian.
Demagoguery. It's actually very Dick Cheney-like, right? So Dick Cheney was, when they were asked him, hey, did Iraq attack us on 9/11? They came from the same geographic region as the people who attacked us, he said.
These people disgust me, man. Yeah.
So, okay, Michael, you're totally lying about that, and we're gonna move on. So now look, I said online once I saw this, that obviously he probably lobbies for Israel, and he took great umbrage at that. So let me share graphic 3, his statement about that, and we'll break it down. He says, hey Cenk, you're a nice guy and I enjoyed being on your show, but respectfully, someone has given you completely false information about me. If it were true, I'd happily take it as a badge of honor.
Of course you would.
That he lobbying for Israel is what he's referring to. But alas, not one word of it is true, correct, honest, accurate, or real life. Would you mind deleting the post or correcting the record with an apology? Hilarious. I would have reached out privately rather than responding publicly, but I don't have your contact information. Thanks, Cenk. No, I will not be taking it down. And here's why I said it. So he works for Ballard Partners. Ballard Partners has an office in Israel. Now, it is technically possible that the Ballard Partners has an office in Israel, but they do absolutely nothing there. That it's just an empty office, people just show up and do nothing at all, and then they come home. So I don't know for 100% fact, to be fair to him, and I'm being honest here and I'm just stating it publicly, that Ballard Partners does anything for Israel They might be super stupid and have an office there for no reason at all, okay?
They have an office in Israel?
Yes. So, but he says
Wrap
no.
Wrap it up, homie. Wrap it up. Wrap it up. Like, don't insult our intelligence. Let's move on to the next claim.
Okay, so anyways, so look, I don't know if they have Michael working on that client or not.
It doesn't matter.
But come on, your firm not only works for Israel, has an office in Israel, and you expect us to believe that they do no work for Israel and that your firm is not at all connected.
Wrap it up.
But even more so, Anna, is that everyone in DC, if they're a strategist or consultant, knows you better not cross Israel. Otherwise, you're not gonna get another job, period. Somebody will call you an anti-Semite, there'll be a whisper campaign, Canary Mission will come in, and your career will be utterly destroyed. So they all know, as a matter of reality and fact, if you are working in DC, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, you must get on your knees for Israel. And you must try to destroy any candidate, whether you're paid to or not, for that particular race. You must destroy candidates on behalf of Israel. Never serve America, how dare you? Serve the Democratic Party, that's just the front for you getting on TV to do propaganda for Israel. So you don't want the Democrats to win Michigan. You don't want the Democrats to get the Senate because of a made up story about how Abdul did not reject Hassan's comments about 9/11. That's obviously made up because he's on the record. You want us to run the tape for you? Okay, we could keep embarrassing you all day long, but none of what you're saying is true. So what we are all hearing, because we've heard it for the last 40 years from both sides, is all hail mighty Israel.
So Jake, look, this is the reason why I don't think there's a real political solution to the troubles that we're experiencing as a country right now. Because LaRosa is not novel in the Democratic Party. He's part and parcel of the Democratic machine. These are the people who consult the politicians, the candidates. This is the type of ideology they have. And they'll be super mealy-mouthed when it comes to challenging anyone on the right. But they're certainly not mealy-mouthed when it comes to going after anyone to the left of them.
So I don't remember our exact conversation in that interview, and I believe I challenged them on this, but you guys can go watch it. But you worked for Jill Biden, one of the biggest liars in Washington.
Fitting.
Yeah, she's the one who said that Joe Biden was the best Democrat to run.
A dynamo.
And that he was wonderful amazing behind the scenes.
His brain definitely wasn't melting down.
And we found out that you guys were all hiding the truth, and now you pretend like you were against it or something, and I maybe made the mistake of believing you. But what happened? Jill Biden, your boss, lied to the whole country. She knew that Joe Biden had dementia, but she wanted power. And by the way, since they were hungry for power, what did the Bidens do when they were running the country? And you have to say plural because Joe obviously was senile and we don't know who was running foreign policy and domestic policy. I always assumed that it was Jill Biden for domestic policy and Anthony Blinken for foreign policy, but really it doesn't matter because they all work for the same people, the donor class. Trump comes in, you still get Netanyahu, it doesn't matter, right? But at the time, Jill Biden and Joe Biden made the decision, we're gonna back the genocide. And in fact, we're gonna send them a $21 billion check to keep murdering innocent Palestinians. And then they murdered 23,000 children. But now you're telling us that you're willing to have the entire Democratic Party lose just so that a candidate who doesn't bow to Israel doesn't win an election. And then you tell us, no, but you don't work for Israel. The one honest thing you did was say, but you would love to. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.